everybody, it's Gary Stuckey. Welcome back to another episode of Steve Perry News. I've got my trusty glasses on because I can't see without them. Can't read without them. I can see a little bit, I'm just saying. Okay, if you never watch another video of mine, or any other video at all, watch this one, because it's what I've been summarizing the past 3 years. Just had a lot on my mind. I've been thinking about this. Can't sleep. Kind of excited, just saying. There's new Journey music coming up, right? Let me just throw that out there, first of all. And let me say that about a year ago, I guess, I wrote an article on my blog, steveperryandjourneynews.com. Check it out. Go to it. steveperryandjourneynews.com. I wrote an article about the song No Erasin, and I said that it's about Journey. And a lot of people said, no, Steve said it was about high school reunion, a relationship. It ain't about Journey. And I get that. Then I was watching a video of Danny Bonaducci. Remember that guy from the Partridge Family? Coincidentally, Partridge. I think of partridge in a pear tree. Pear tree, that's what Steve Perry's name means in Portuguese. Just saying. But that's coincidental. Look it up. But he was talking to Danny, I think it was Danny and Sarah, on that podcast. It was about right before he released his album, I believe, in 2018. Talking about different things, you've heard a lot of it before, but he mentioned some things that you might think is cool. There was a guy that asked him a question. It wasn't Danny, I don't think, it's another guy, but they were talking about what the song means. And he said initially it was about high school reunion, smooching, this and that, the two people, reconnecting. But he also agreed with the guy who said, was it about Journey? He said, yeah. But it has different meanings. It's about high school reunion. It's also about the fans, right? And we all know what I've been talking about. The song No Erasing, what it says, the lyrics. I know it's been a long time coming since I saw your face, right? It's been so long since we're together in the back seat of your car, okay? And we do know that the lyrics, it's been a long time since I saw your face, traces in my mind. I know that's from the song Something to Hide, and I've said it before. Steve Perry, have you got something to hide? Well, that's from the album Infinity, which is the first Steve Perry album, the first one he was on. He wrote a song with Neil Schon called Patiently. That was the first song that they wrote together in a motel room or was it a hotel in Denver, Colorado, right back in the late 70s. They wrote Patiently together. That was the first song, right? Okay. Well, Neil at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame said, this is so long time coming. And then Steve says, there was one, guitar that was soaring, the Eagles soaring above Los Angeles. He's talking about Neil, right? So I think he dedicated the first part of the song No Erasing to a guy named Neil Schon, because they wrote the song Something to Hide together too. They wrote Patiently. They wrote Something to Hide. And also there's metaphors in the song. Backseat of the car, he said, was about being on stage. So it's been so long since he was on stage. Well, he was on stage on the song Patiently. He's on stage in this song, right? But the double meanings, backseat of the car, you don't have to explain what that means, but it's about an intimacy, and we'll get into that, different relationships. I'll get into that in a second. But he was talking about Neil Schon here, and if you go back and watch the Jim Kerr interview with Steve, Look that up on YouTube also. Uh, Steve was mentioning to Jim about traces, but he was talking about the song No Erasing. He said, some things you have to get. It's like a reunion and people, and he was comparing it. You have to listen to it to understand what I'm saying, but he was comparing No Erasing to Journey, and he said you can get away from them. You can go on an island somewhere, try to escape them, but no matter where you go, there you are, and there it is, and it's time you do something about it. You need to do something about it, he said. So what could he be talking about? Need to do something about it, right? He's talking about Journey. He needs to do something about it. So then you go to the second part of the song, right? So I do think the first part was about Neil, because that's what Neil said. That's what his speech began with. This is so long time coming. Second part of the songs, he talks about summer nights and sweet surrender under the stars. One more time, we're here together in the backseat of your car. So he's, recalling the same thing that happened back in the day, which is being on stage with Journey. And that's what happened. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it was a chance to be on stage with Journey again. But then you get down to the part where it says, told you of my love today, right? Rain coming down, you laughed with me and sheltered me and turned me on. You won't see me. You won't see how you done me wrong. You done me wrong, and you won't try. Sounds like he's talking about somebody. Sounds like Jonathan Cain. You say, why is it Jonathan Cain? Well, and I think about it, and it's kind of rough. I love Jonathan Cain. Love all the guys in the band, But I remember in the VH1, behind the music, when Jonathan was, I think when Steve was like, if you go on and get another singer for the band, there's no turning back. And Jonathan Cain was like, I know this, and I was kind of like, that didn't really like that, and it was, I kind of understand where Steve kind of got upset. So maybe that was the deal, and as we all know, on the cover of Trace's album, there's a guitar it looks like Neil Sean's guitar, and it's got a dove on top. Sounds like he made peace with Neil, but there's a cracked piano strewn all over the road, Doesn't look very promising for he and Neil, and I was hoping, if there was some kind of rift or something, maybe they could work it out, because those three guys, especially, the main songwriters and everything, they had a bond, and I always hoped that they could work it out. But it didn't look like it at that time, right? But on that second part of the song, though, about told you of my love today, rain falling down. Well, I got to looking at a book. Remember this book? I've talked about this before in other videos, so this might be me repeating myself. This is the Time Cubed book. Very handy book that goes along with that box set. Talks about the band, the history, and it has some songs in here. It tells about each song on the album there, and talks about Who's Crying Now, which I believe was the first song they wrote together, Steve and Jonathan. It says the first taste of Escape most people heard eventually sailed all the way to number 4 on the Billboard chart. Perry wrote the chorus of the song driving from Bakersfield to San Francisco. Singing into a cassette recorder, he went to Cain's house, rain pouring down, right? And sheets outside with the whole song in his head. He hummed the melody to Cain and guided him through the piano part. Cain suggested the tune sounded like a somebody done somebody wrong song and said, Who's Crying Now? The pair finished the song that afternoon. Okay, told you of my love today, rain coming down, you laughed with me and sheltered me. Sounds like Steve came in from the shelter. He's recalling that time that he wrote with Jonathan Cain. You laughed with me and sheltered me. You turned me on, and I'm thinking he's talking about in a songwriting sense, just like the backseat of the car is an intimate relationship, so to speak, with the fans. But it's also an intimate relationship with Neil in writing the song patiently. I believe that was like a real special moment for Steve, like an intimate thing. That's why he loves to write with different people. That's why I think on the album Traces, like with Barry Eastman, awesome songwriter, he got to write the song You Belong to Me on a piano. Same thing as Jonathan. Rain coming down. But, you won't see me, you won't see how, you done me wrong. So was he talking about that VH1 thing when he said there's no turning back? Sounds like it. But, that's something to think about. I mean, could I be totally overthinking and just, this is crazy, Gary? What are you talking about? It's a possibility, but it's really coincidental, if you ask me. It's very coincidental, I'm just saying. So, okay, so you fast forward, you go to the album, the alternate versions, that was released on December 4th, which happens to be the day that Steve's mom passed away. And she's the one that got Steve to not give up whenever his bandmate died back in the day with the Alien Project. She got him to go join up with Journey, and whenever he was thinking about leaving Journey, right after he did the solo album, Street Talk, and she was dying back in 1985, he asked her, should I go back to Journey? She said, Journey, yeah. That's barely could make it out, but she wanted him to go back to Journey. And on his albums, he always says, I'll never forget the promise. He always talks about the promise he made. So I believe somewhere down the line there was a promise about Journey. Now, did he fulfill his promise when they got back together by trial by fire? Yeah, I think so. But I think that also maybe to keep a promise, to keep it going, maybe to say they are friends till the end, so to speak. They're all getting older, and I hope they live many, many more years. But, I just think that it's time maybe to do something about that, just like he's been saying. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stirred something, fire burning within. Just like Erasin. Anyway said, the song Anyway, he wrote about Journey. He didn't say, hey, everybody, this is about Journey, but you could tell it was about Journey. He didn't say, hey, everybody. I look at it like I've written a song, if you write a song about a girl you like, which I've done, and you put it on Facebook or something, you're not going to tag her in the, on the post and say, this is for you. You're going to kind of be, nonchalant and kind of, not so obvious. And you're going to write the song and hope she reads it. Well, that's what I think he did with the song Anyway. I think that's what he did with No Erasing. So he's talking about these guys and hoping, that things work out. You done me wrong, you won't try. I've seen videos where he was trying. He said, we're trying, he and Neil Sean, but never with Jonathan. So maybe somewhere, and you wonder, did they work something out? Did they possibly work something out? Well, you fast forward to that album I was just telling you about on December 4th, when Steve's mom passed away, 1985. Well, he released that album on that day. I guess to remember her, and that promise. But on that cover of that album, right, in the place of the guitar, where Neil's guitar, it has the dove sitting on top of it. Well, it's no longer there, but an acoustic guitar is there. And then if you look on YouTube, there's a video about Neil talking about how he wrote the song Patiently with Steve. Look that up. And he says he had an acoustic guitar and they wrote it together, right, in that motel room. So there you go. There's that acoustic guitar. On this side, over here, you have Jonathan Cain's, it looks like a baby grand Wurlitzer, which Jonathan had, I think, when he recorded the, when he was writing the song Who's Crying Now with Steve, The Day in the Rain. I think he had that. So there you go. I mean, it's kind of obvious. If that's Neil's guitar here, and on the other album he had broken keys, it's no longer broken. There's a whole piano. It's Jonathan's piano, obviously. So why is he posting these two things on this album? There's a trail, two roads, it looks like, the trail going off into the sunset, which, by the way, the sun represents like a phoenix, like on Trial by Fire, like on the album cover of Traces, there's like a phoenix and there's a continual infinity circle of birds, like Infinity Album, which means forever. But the phoenix represents like the sun, right? Going over, in the horizon, and then coming back up the next day. It's like a rebirth, so to speak. A lot of symbolism there. But there you go, and even the sun shining on the bay there in that picture of the Traces album, the second Traces album, the alternate versions. Yeah, the sun's shining, the sun's going over the hill when the lights go down in the city and the sun shines on the bay. Bet you didn't think about that, did you? Well, there you go. So that intimacy that I was telling you about, he has an intimacy with Neil Schon. Songwriting is a big deal. So when he wrote the song Patiently, that was his first shot, right? That song Lights I was just telling you about. On the B side of that single, a song called Something to Hide, which contains the words, I know it's been a long, long time since I saw your face, traces in my mind. Well, there you go. So that intimacy, I can't say a word. That could be the meaning of that double meaning in the back seat of the car. You know what that means. And here's something that it just kind of blew my mind, me thinking about it, right? We all know Arnel Pineda is in the band, okay? Steve always said, whenever Neil made a solo album, he got upset. He says it's kind of like cheating on your wife. He always compared the band to like a wife, right? So it's like songwriting is like intimacy, and the band is the wife, okay? Remember that, okay? So I've talked about this before, but so if the band is the wife and intimacy is songwriting, well, there you go. With Neil and John, you see what happens. They're like married, in the band. Well, Arnel Pineda is now the wife, so to speak, or he's in the marriage. I don't know, So, the wife is Journey, but he's in that marriage, so to speak. I know it's getting kind of weird there. But that means they divorced. That means that Steve was divorced from Journey. That happened, 1998, right about? So if he's divorced, that means they moved on. They married somebody else. They married a few others, right? But they ended up with Arnel Pineda. Well, in the song No Erasin, he's talking about two married people that used to be lovers. They're not in a relationship. Well, it just dawned on me, I guess, tonight. Of course, they're talking about Neil Schon, Jonathan Cain are still in the band Journey. That's one. That's that's the girl, right? That's the girl that Steve is talking about. And he gets in the back seat of the car. Well, there you go. The band is the girl. Steve is the other person from the high school reunion. They're remembering each other back, their relationship from back in the day. They're married to Arnel, so it's like they're cheating, on their relationship with Arnel, but only for just a little while. But then they go back. Steve's talked about it before. They went back to their wives, husbands. They went, whatever. So there you go. So what I'm getting at is, even Steve said in that Danny Bonaducci interview, that you don't have to get back together to have that excitement, that intimacy. They had it together there for that moment. So was he talking about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? And I believe he talks about smooching, right? He always talks about interviews, smooching with the girl, So it's more than just meeting somebody like at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because that's what he's talking about. So smooching would be kind of getting to the intimacy part, which would be songwriting. But they didn't go all the way, so to speak. And I know the metaphors are crazy, right? But to just be smooching. It sounds like maybe one song, right? And perhaps, just perhaps, this new Journey song that talks about going back to the way things used to be, and it's about to be released on the anniversary of Raised on Radio, which just happened to have Steve Perry, Jonathan Cain, Neil Schon, and Randy Jackson. And Neil Schon talked to Sammy Hagar one time, right when Steve Perry just came on American Idol. He was about to release his new album, but he just found out about it. And Neil said, I've been trying to work with Steve. I don't think he wants to come back to the band. I want to work with him outside of Journey, but I don't know. I think he likes R&B. I got this guy named Narada Michael Walden. This was like 3 years ago, before anything was announced about Narada and Journey, right? Well, he was hoping that he could work with Steve again. Now, why would Steve not want to be back in the band? He don't think he would work with Journey again. Maybe it had something to do with Ross and Steve, and maybe something to do with that contract that was... The same thing happened in 1986, I think they renewed the contract back in 1985. They got rid of Ross and Steve about the same time. So whatever negotiations were going on then, they kind of went on recently in the same kind of way. And thankfully, Ross and Steve got money. But it's like they negotiated the same kind of thing and made sure that they were taken care of. And then Steve came back to the band after doing a solo album back in 1984 and then 1986. Well, he did the solo album Traces. It's almost like it's history repeating itself. So now with all this contracts and renegotiating, did that make a way for Steve to write a song legally with Journey again? Or maybe it's more than just a song. But I think if it's not this time, it's something coming up. I mean, I think there's too much to be just a coincidence, with all the lyrics about Traces and the guitar and the piano on the album cover and just things he said. It just makes a lot of sense, So think about all that I've said. And the 35th anniversary of Raised on Radio, is a coincidence that the new single by Journey's coming out about the same time? I think it's all for a reason. Maybe for the past 3 years that I've been doing this channel was for a reason. And when I saw Steve on American Idol, I just had a feeling that this was going to happen. All this that I've been talking about, I've been thinking about for 3 years. So maybe, just maybe, it might happen. Maybe this song might involve Steve Perry. If not, maybe something in the future, But you can't stop believing either way, right? I'll never stop believing. Until next time, everybody, this is Gary Stuckey. Don't stop believing. God bless you.